I don't know if any of you have heard about satanic ritual abuse, but it exists. I lived through it, and I just kind of want to warn you, keep you aware. So here we go. We're going to do this again because last time it didn't work right. Again, it's my unedited version of my book, In the Shadows of Occult, My Life in Occult, and How I Escaped. I'm going to do the first part of the book now. It'll take, a while. And then it's unedited, so sometimes it goes to the deleted section and the grammar corrected section, whatever. But I'm going to do my best to control it. Before you judge me in any way, yes, when I was 20, 21, 22, 23, I got into a really bad marriage with a really bad family, and I grew up with abuse, so I was basically a prime candidate for getting sucked into it. I also was connected to the entertainment industry. I changed the names in the story for now. Maybe my finished version, I'll go back to the real names, but I was trying to protect my children and myself. So I changed the names, and sometimes it mentions the real person's name because it didn't get edited yet. So just know that that character is Saint. Once in a while it says Sandy. Does ritual abuse really exist? And can you believe what Isaac Cappy and Corey Feldman and all these people are saying? Absolutely, because I lived through it, and it permeates everything, and it's real, and it's worse than most of you have even heard about. So why am I doing it? To make you aware, to warn you, to open your eyes, open your heart, open your soul. So I'm going to attempt to get this to load this time. And I'm sorry that it's a heavy subject, but it needs to be said. And I am constantly struggling and homeless, and my health is failing, so I wanted to put it out there for you because I felt like I needed to try to make a difference before I leave the planet. So hopefully also my kids have shut out the truth, and if they listen to this, they'll hear my side of the story, whether they like to hear it or not. And so hopefully some people will listen to this, and it'll enlighten them and make them aware of what's going on around them, because this is a real problem. It actually exists. And it's time that the public stop putting their head in the sand. So, all right, here we go.
In the Shadows of Occult, my personal journey that taught me what to look for and how to avoid them. This is a true story. All of the events are accurate, not fabricated. The names have all been changed to protect me from any hostile response. The only information that remains the same is about the cult The Move. Their information is public knowledge, and they have message boards on the internet for the whole world to see. There is no way they can accuse me of false representation or slander because the ex-members speak openly on the message boards. Some of them have written books. The main reason I am mentioning them in my book is to once and for all bring to light the deception that still goes on today. It needs to stop, and those who are guilty need to be held accountable for their actions. I want to share a profound thought with you before you sit down and read my book. Make this the first time in your life that you turn off your mind and read a book with your spirit. I ask that you do not judge me or the content. You will be shocked, you may disagree, and that is okay. You may cry and even laugh. I just hope you have a totally different reading experience. Please just continue reading all the way to the end, then sit down, turn your mind off, and reflect on what you have just read. Make this the first time you take the curiosity that was sparked in you from seeing the cover and really search within yourself for answers to your own questions. This book was written to cause you to go deep within and inspire you to find out what the journey you're personally on can teach you. Then always keep everything in your life positive, never focus on the negative. In that you will find freedom. I have been inspired by my spirituality along with my personal involvement with 2 cults and exposure to other groups to share my experiences with you. It has taken several years to come to this place of courage and wisdom. The healing process has been the most time-consuming part of the journey. I knew after escaping their control I needed to become stronger in spite of the damage caused to me and the people I love. I pray that now that I have evolved from this dark time in my life back into the light, I'll have more purpose on this earth. My hope is the things I have learned will help others avoid the trials and pain I have endured. Before we begin with my story, let me give you my analogy of what my definitions are of what a cult is based on my experience with them. First of all, the Oxford English Dictionary defines it like this: 1. A system of religious worship, i.e., as expressed in a ritual. 2. Devotion or homage to a person or thing, i.e., government leader or government belief system, i.e., Stalin, Hitler, etc. The cult of Hollywood narcissism is another example. This is a movement of sorts if you look at the hype, or the fact that so many artists become trapped in the image or mold that is created to market them as a certain object. If a person is not strong enough to separate the fact from fiction and they allow an individual or group of persons to have power over them, the same destructive conclusion will occur. The artist will lose their identity and, in many cases, their life. I am referring to Anna Nicole, Michael Jackson, Heath Ledger, and others like them that become entangled with people who have hidden agendas and take advantage of the weaknesses they have within them. Deleted. This has been going on since the conception of media, and no one has understood it or put an end to it, which makes you wonder, why? The paradox in this is money and power on all fronts is their motive. The bottom line, any movement that creates a social group of followers who will create monetary gain for the leaders fulfills the definition of a cult. There clearly is a problem with the use of substances used to manipulate people in media. However, let us look at another form of control in Hollywood: Scientology. Their founder realized he could take dysfunctional celebrities, offer them a fabricated kind of peace that is far from reality or the way to fix what is wrong with their spirit, and make a fortune. I have been in the celebrity center, and all I can say is the man was a marketing guru. There is a side to Hollywood few have seen past the glitz and glamour. There is an underlying power. The higher you climb in the industry, the greater the control. They literally own you and everything you create. It is a very subtle thing to the public, however, I assure you it has all the characteristics of a cult. If you look at celebrities in general, what they become traps them in a kind of invisible prison. Not only do they lose their privacy, they are now transformed into an image that is far from who they started off being. We are all neophytes when it comes to life in general. We are taught to follow the leader, get in line, and submit when we are children. Today, if a child refuses to submit or acts up, they are put on drugs to control their conduct. Their behavior, even though it may be normal for them or related to a food reaction, is labeled as a disease. This attitude continues throughout our lives right into the work environment. For instance, Walmart has a chant all employees are required to do at the meetings before work begins. You're to do this sort of cheer that tells your mind you're working for the best company ever. This is simply propaganda. This brainwashing was clear to me because of my involvement with cults. When I worked for them, I refused to do it. I am sure there are other companies out there that use a kind of Freudian psychology on people to get them to believe their company is there to make their life so much better when in reality you are there to make them a whole lot of money while you work for minimum wage. Did you know most of the big corporations go to third world countries, pay the children in most cases, not adults, pennies a day to mass produce for them? Or that some of the big beverage companies go to these same countries and take all of their water and do nothing to help them? So keep buying their products, they love you. They adore the fact that you close your eyes and refuse to research the truth. Not to mention most of our food and beverages are just plain poison to our bodies, served in plastic that is carcinogenic especially when heated. However, as long as the packaging is nice and ads tell us we must buy it, we run right out without giving it a second thought and consume to our little heart's content. A cult is usually applied to religion, however, it applies to every facet of life, including the governments of the world. Here is a list of defining points as they relate to the foundation of a cult. As you read the list, keep an open mind and compare it, if you will, to what you see just living life in general every day. 1. It is led by an autocratic central authority who demands absolute, unquestioning obedience and submission. It is not always a single person. 2. It does not reveal what it truly teaches up front to those who question, but instead gradually, subliminally introduces the belief system until the individuals involved are indoctrinated. 3. It uses intimidation, brainwashing, threats, i.e., fear, false evidence appearing real, violence, and abuse, to keep the individuals entrapped. 4. It prods the members to isolate themselves from family members and /or pledge total allegiance. It is the same with an abusive partner. 5. It takes writings or philosophies written by others and twists them to meet their specific needs, then claims that they are the only ones who can construe the meaning. 6. It physically and psychologically assaults the individuals involved, usually to maintain control through so-called discipline. 7. It requires the individuals to forsake personal possessions for the good of the others, socialism. 8. It has a very low tolerance for individuality and nonconformity and persecutes those attributes in the individuals as intensely as possible. 9. It holds its own policy and claims to be the only way to maintain peace in defiance of an individual's choice. 10. It performs, in some cases, criminal activities, such as forgery, blackmail, fraud, and burglary. Abuse and sexual abuse are in most cases involved. They use these ideals to further their own agendas. Overpowering if overused, but used sparingly in just the right place.
Oh, sorry.
Productive in a blue room because they are
I skipped ahead trying to do this. Hold on.
associated
just
with intelligence.
Go back to the beginning. There we go. Okay.
7. It requires the individuals to forsake personal possessions for the good of the others, socialism.
Sorry.
8. It has a very low tolerance for individuality and nonconformity and persecutes those attributes in the individuals as intensely as possible. 9. It holds its own policy and claims to be the only way to maintain peace in defiance of an individual's choice. 10. It performs, in some cases, criminal activities, such as forgery, blackmail, fraud, and burglary. Abuse and sexual abuse are in most cases involved. They use these ideals to further their own agendas. What I find intrusive with religion or governments as a whole is the fact that they all claim that their way is the only way. I feel no one has the right to regulate anyone because in most cases, it doesn't work, it causes dissension. Laws, codes, and regulations are created for revenue purposes the majority of the time. Control through violence and /or fear is always destructive, it never brings peace. I am clearly not talking about the laws that protect us from harm or crimes, I am referring to those that take away our unalienable rights. We should always have the right to live life as we choose as long as we do not infringe on the rights of others or violate others. The only fundamental law we need to follow is the golden rule: treat others as you want others to treat you. Think about what I have just shared with you for a moment. How much of what we engage in from day to day is consequently influenced by outside sources, mainly media and advertisers? Subliminal messages inundate our music and media. Color is also used to manipulate emotions and stimulate the brain. I have worked in the entertainment industry, so I feel that gives me credibility to address the fact that everything in media is a created reality that is not authentic. Let me paint a clear picture for you as far as color is concerned. I have researched this, and here is what. In the red area of the color spectrum are known as warm colors and include red, orange, and yellow.
Skip too fast.
Harm or crimes, I am referring to those that take away our unalienable rights.
Let's go back.
We should always have the right to live life as we choose as long as we do not infringe on the rights of others or violate others. The only fundamental law we need to follow is the golden rule: treat others as you want others to treat you. Think about what I have just shared with you for a moment. How much of what we engage in from day to day is consequently influenced by outside sources, mainly media and advertisers? Subliminal messages inundate our music and media. Color is also used to manipulate emotions and stimulate the brain. I have worked in the entertainment industry, so I feel that gives me credibility to address the fact that everything in media is a created reality that is not authentic. Let me paint a clear picture for you as far as color is concerned. I have researched this, and here is what I have found. Do you feel anxious in a yellow room? Does the color blue make you feel calm and relaxed? Artists, interior designers, and psychologists have long understood how color can dramatically affect moods, feelings, and emotions. It is a powerful communication tool and can be used to signal action, influence mood, and cause physiological reactions. Certain colors can raise blood pressure, increase metabolism, or cause eye strain. While perceptions of color are somewhat subjective, there are some color effects that have universal meaning. Colors deleted, F deleted. In the red area of the color spectrum are known as warm colors and include red, orange, and yellow. These warm colors evoke emotions ranging from feelings of warmth and comfort to feelings of anger and hostility. Colors on the blue side of the spectrum are known as cool colors and include blue, purple, and green. These colors are often described as calm but can also call to mind feelings of sadness or indifference. When you go to the store, do you buy plain label and generic brands, or does advertising play in your mind and control your choices? What color is used to motivate you to go and buy fast food? Especially when it has been proven it not good for you, however you still feel the urge to eat it. Have you ever sat and reflected on why that is? Look at the colors and how they are used to stimulate your brain, and then maybe you will understand why. Psychology of color. Black is the color of authority and power, stability, and strength. It is also the color associated with intelligence, doctorate in black robe, black horn-rimmed glasses, etc. Black clothes make people appear thinner. It's a somber color sometimes associated with evil. The cowboy in the black hat was almost always the bad guy. In the Western Hemisphere, black is associated with grieving. Black is a serious color that evokes strong emotions. It is easy to overwhelm people with too much black. Psychology of color. White for most of the world. This is the color associated with purity, wedding dresses, cleanliness, doctors in white coats, and the safety of bright light. Things go bump in the night, not in the bright sunshine. It is also used to project the absence of color or neutrality. In some eastern parts of the world, white is associated with mourning. White associated with creativity, whiteboards, blank slates. It is a compression of all the colors in the color spectrum. Psychology of color. Gray is most associated with the practical, timeless, middle of the road, solid things in life. Too much gray leads to feeling mostly nothing, but a bit of gray will add that rock-solid feeling to your product. Some shades of gray are associated with old age, death, taxes, depression, or a lost sense of direction. Silver is an offshoot of gray and is often associated with giving a helping hand, strong character, sterling in fact. Psychology of color. Red. If you want to draw attention, use red. It is often where the eye looks first. Red is the color of energy. It's associated with movement and excitement. People surrounded by red find their heart beating a little faster and often report feeling a bit out of breath. Absolutely the wrong color for a baby's room, but perfect to get people excited. Wearing red clothes will make you appear a bit heavier and certainly more noticeable. Some studies show red cars get more tickets, but that may be because the red car owners drive faster or the ticket giver notices the movement of the red car more prominently. Red is not a good color to overuse, but using a spot of red in just the right place is smart in some cases. One red accent in an otherwise neutral room draws the eye. A red tie with a navy blue suit and white shirts adds just the right amount of energy to draw the eye. No wonder it's the uniform of the day at the seats of government. Red is the symbol of life, red-blooded life, and for this reason, it's the color worn by brides in China. Red is used at holidays that are about love and giving, red roses, Valentine's hearts, Christmas, etc., but the true color of love is pink. Pink is the most calming of all colors. Often our most dangerous criminals are housed in pink cells, as studies show that color drains the energy and calms aggression. Think of pink as the color of romance, love, and gentle feelings. To be in the pink is to be soothed. Psychology of color. Blue. Ask people their favorite color, and a clear majority will say blue. Much of the world is blue, skies, seas. Seeing the color blue actually causes the body to produce chemicals that are calming, but that isn't true of all shades of blue. Some shades, or too much blue, can send a cold and uncaring message. Many bedrooms are blue because it's calm, restful color. Over the ages, blue has become associated with steadfastness, dependability, wisdom, and loyalty. Note how many uniforms are blue. People tend to be more productive in a blue room because they are calm and focused on the task at hand. Some studies are showing that weightlifters can lift more weight in a blue gym. In fact, nearly all sports are enhanced in blue surroundings. Psychology of color. Green. The color of growth, nature, and money is green. A calming color also that's very pleasing to the senses. Dark forest green is associated with terms like conservative, masculine, and wealth. Hospitals use light green rooms because they too are found to be calming to patients. It is also the color associated with envy, good luck, generosity, and fertility. It is the traditional color of peace, harmony, comfortable nurturing, support, and well-paced energy. Psychology of color. Yellow. Cheerful yellow. The color of the sun, associated with laughter, happiness, and good times. A person surrounded by yellow feels optimistic because the brain actually releases more deleted serotonin, feel-good chemical in the brain, when around this color. It is the color associated with optimism, but be careful with yellow. When intense, it is the color of flames, and studies show babies cry more in bright, yellow rooms, and tempers flare more around that color too. It has the power to speed up our metabolism and bring out some creative thoughts. Legal tablets are yellow for good reason. Yellow can be quickly overpowering if overused, but used sparingly in just the right place, it can be an effective tool in marketing to greater sales. Some shades of yellow are associated with cowardice, but the more golden shades with the promise of better times. Psychology of color. Orange. The most flamboyant color on the planet. It's the color tied most this fun times, happy and energetic days, warmth, and organic products. It is also associated with ambition. There is nothing even remotely calm associated with this color. Orange is associated with a new dawn in attitude. Psychology of color. Purple. What color were the robes of kings and queens? Yes, they were purple, our most royal color that is associated with wealth, prosperity, rich sophistication. This color stimulates the brain activity used in problem solving. However, when overused in a common setting, it is associated with putting on airs and being artificial. Use purple most carefully to lend an air of mystery, wisdom, and respect. Young adolescent girls are most likely to select nearly all shades of purple as their favorite color. Psychology of color. Brown. This color is most associated with reliability, stability, and friendship. More are likely to select this as their favorite color. It's the color of the earth itself, terra firma, and what could represent stability better? It too is associated with things being natural or organic. Caution, however, for in India it is the color of mourning. So next time you watch television or when you pick up that item at the store, take a moment and look at the colors on the packaging. Then decide for yourself if you should buy the item or why you feel the urge to purchase it. Listen closely to the drug ads. They tell you the prescription meds will help with the symptom you're having. However, the side effects are so much worse. Why take it at all? We are programmed by the media from a child that we need this toy or that thing through ads. You will find a 1-hour show is actually only about 30 minutes long. How much time in a 1-hour show is given to ads and how much to the actual programming? If you think about it, the programming is also manipulative, suggesting to you what is acceptable and what is not, controlling your thoughts. The news gives us a picture of the world through exploitation of our emotions. They for the most part use trepidation. I challenge you to watch the news and write down how many things are pessimistic or relate to things that program us with fear. Here is a fresh idea: why not focus on things that solve our problems instead of dwelling on negativity? Is psychology used on us in every facet of life? I have given you many examples. Here is one final thought to drive my point home where your heart is. I dated a psychologist for a time who studied how psychology affects economics. He shared a profound thing with me that has stuck with me and given me insight. He told me that when he finished university, he had a hard time finding work as a psychologist. So he took on a job at an advertising agency. The agency gave him an assignment for Smirnoff. They asked him to help them with their numbers and sales. So he did some research and found that alcoholics have a death wish. So he subliminally created a skull and bones within the Smirnoff label. If you do not understand, here is the explanation. You could not see the skull and bones with the naked eye, but it was there for the subconscious to pick up on. Their sales went up 200%, and that, my dear reader, is how we are manipulated every day. That is how far they will go and how evil their agenda is. So ask yourself if you are following a movement of sorts. If you take a hard look, you will see that peer pressure, keeping up with the masses, and being led by others' thoughts happens every day throughout every facet of life. Your clothes, food, what car you drive, what medicine you take, what you read is all influenced by what someone else has said or arranged. So maybe now you can clearly see that anyone can be subliminally manipulated into a cult or movement. It is my opinion, if you really want to live your own life, then check yourself. Make sure that what you are following and what you believe comes from your own inner spirituality. Make sure you are following your own truth and reality. Then you will never find yourself judging a person who has been a victim of a cult, abuse, or anything else for that matter. Instead, you will only hope they find the truth that will lead them to peace and freedom. In fact, you may now see that you need deliverance as well. Here is a little saying of mine that I hope will give you wisdom. Life is an illusion, and things are not always what they appear to be. The definition of fear: false evidence appearing real. Do not allow it to control you or immobilize you. Educate yourself. Knowledge is power. Secret societies have existed for centuries while most go undetected. Books have been written about them on several occasions. The internet is full of information, and films have also been made about them by well-known filmmakers. If you believe in the supernatural or spirituality, then you should understand what I am about to share with you. Mind control and brainwashing have always been the practice for these groups. The same practice ritual abuse. In fact, the two are intertwined, and it all stems from paganism. The Illuminati formula used to create an undetectable total mind-controlled slave by Cisco Wheeler and Fritz Springmeier is just one example. Ever wonder why the Freemasonry or Illuminati meetings and gatherings are in total secrecy? Walt Disney was a 33 degrees Freemason and an Illuminist. Behind all those cartoons, magazines, movies, etc., is a hidden agenda to mess up our children's minds. Disney's production over the years is filled with Masonic symbolism, occult over and undertones, mind control, and indoctrination. His agenda was preparing our younger generations for the New World Order and introduce them to sorcery, black magic, as being a cool thing. My hope is after you read this book, you will see that entertainment is actually one of the elite's most coveted tools. Freemasonry is a fraternity within a fraternity. An outer organization concealing an inner brotherhood of the elected is necessary to establish the existence of these two separate and yet interdependent orders, the one visible and the other invisible. The visible society is a splendid camaraderie of free and accepted men enjoined to devote themselves to ethical, educational, fraternal, patriotic, and humanitarian concerns. The invisible society is a secret and most august, defined as of majestic dignity, grandeur, fraternity whose members are dedicated to the service of a mysterious arcandrum, defined as a secret, a mystery, hall, lectures on ancient philosophy, p. 433. When a Mason learns the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onward and upward, he must prove his ability to properly apply energy. The Lost Keys to Freemasonry, Manly P. Hall, published by the McCoy Publishing and Masonic Supply Company Incorporated, Richmond, Virginia, 1976, p. 48, emphasis added. When we consider that modern illuminated Masonry is merely an extension of ancient Baal worship and religion, even down to the worship of the phallic obelisks such as those in ancient Babylon, Egypt, Rome, and elsewhere which represented Baal or Nimrod, the king of Babylon and builder of the Tower of Babel, then considering this, is it too much to suggest that this modern covered space program might be in part a last days Tower of Babel to the stars? Believe it or not, the Masonic Illuminati influence had infiltrated the capital city to such a degree in the early beginnings of the American Republic that they not only placed the pentagram into the Washington, D.C. street layout, but the Masonic square and compass, and the symbol of the horned goat as well. According to some, there's an occult history behind the building of the so-called Washington Monument as well. Is it any coincidence that the monument is shaped exactly like the sun god phallic obelisks of Rome, Egypt, and Babylon? What I find amazing is whether these groups are hidden or not, what they do permeates into mainstream churches in the form of conditioning and mind control. Religion is man-made, it has been since the beginning of time, and while it is accepted, it is still cult-like in nature because it creates followers and causes division among people. If you research religion's origins, you will find it is all connected to paganism. The Bible is not the written word of God, it is the written word of man manipulated over and over again in many forms under many names. It is always used for business and monetary gain with the end result being control. No matter how it is masquerading, I would say religion, whether satanic in nature or appearing pure in nature, is the most cleverly thought out deception man has created with his mind. In fact, as I have stated, deleted before, it appears in society every characteristic of it, the churches, cults, and governments all intertwine. There is no difference between how a government is set up and a church is constructed in its corporate structure. They both have similar branches of authority, the people in the pews being the financial slave to the parasite. I know some of you reading this will now have steam coming out of your ears, and that is okay. Just hold on a minute before you tell yourself you are not reading another word. Keep an open spirit for a moment. Have you ever gone into a big city and looked at the churches? They all have these steeples that shoot to the sky over the homes in pyramid fashion. All around these churches you will see poverty, homes, and buildings falling apart. However, the churches are in perfect condition. The fact is, we now have two kinds of worship, one is connected to religion, the other to humanistic greed. Now you see skyscrapers, and the lust for power and money has overshadowed the religious worship. The skyscraper has towered over religious institutions in the scope of its power over the masses. Where religion left off as a form of servitude, the corporation has now outdone it. The facts are in, do not be fooled. They have joined forces, they are connected in so many ways. Just meditate on that and ask yourself why. The reality is most people believe the groups that are in the open practicing humanitarian works are innocent of despicable acts. However, they are just as guilty. For those of you who understand the law of attraction, physics, or the power of words and thoughts, it is clear that there is truth in it because I have now laid it out in front of you. Before you religious folks get angry and decide not to read on, let me say I believe by divine intervention. I do feel there is some truth in the Bible. However, remember one thing that was said within the book you all love: the written word is death and does not bring life. The truth is written on our heart, speaking of the spirit and soul. That is where all truth and wisdom is hidden for ourselves, not to push on others. It is there to guide us on our journey. The facts are overwhelming because it would appear everything we engage in every day is controlled by an elite group, and their agenda is evil. The only freedom from their control I can see is spiritually, and perhaps keeping our mind free of their manipulation. I feel it is inevitable that they will succeed in controlling the world because they have already achieved this to a great extent. I know in my heart I cannot and will not practice the evil that they do because I have deprogrammed and delivered myself from their belief system already. I can honestly say I would rather lose my life than lose my eternal soul. They honestly believe they will not be accountable for the murder and destruction they will cause in order to control the planet. However, I know that I know there is a God, and they will answer to their Creator in the end. Chapter 1. I will commence by explaining how I became a victim of a cult. My life has been interesting from the beginning. My biological father, James, rejected me. At least that is what I was led to believe. My biological mother, Beth, loved me. However, she was plagued with a serious case of epilepsy. The family she worked for saw her illness as good reason to persuade her to give me up. They managed to convince her that they would give me better life. I eventually was adopted by them, which to this day is still somewhat of a mystery to me. I have come up with my own theory recently though, and I want to make it clear this is just a theory. It deleted. All have these steeples that shoot to the sky is based on what happened to me recently, speaking to a family member from my adoptive father's side of the family. First of all, I was told by the woman I spoke to that my adoptive father, Dan, had sympathy for Beth because his mother had epilepsy, and so did Beth. Then she put me on the ancestry family tree. When I told her I was not a blood relative, she said I look like them. I had 2 birth certificates, one with James as the father and one with Dan as the father. I found that odd, so putting it all together, I have decided that I am possibly Dan's child. That he had an affair with my mother, and that was why my adoptive mother, Joan, was so insanely jealous of me. It is the only explanation I have for why she acted like she did. At a young age, this family began to torment me with their humiliation and abuse. I remember at about age 5, one evening during dinner, Dan raised me up to the ceiling and then he slammed me into a chair. The reason being I moved from the spot he put me in. He slammed me into the chair hard enough to cause injury to my back. Previous to the incident, I had perfect posture. I sat so straight everyone would comment about it. Later, when I was involved in an accident, I was told by the doctor that I had a crushed vertebra. However, it was an old injury. One of Dan's favorite things to do was use a wooden paddle on me. He would decide how many blows I would receive according to the disobediences. I remember times there were 10 or more hard blows. These were with the full force of a man who had strength. I will admit there were times I deserved discipline, however, not quite the way he felt was necessary. Dan never did realize that even though I did disobey as most children do, I had an inner conviction that would keep me out of serious trouble. Throughout my childhood, I heard many conversations with other members of my new family. They made references like I would grow up and be a dreamer and loser like James, comparing me to my supposed biological father. My adoptive parents would even say that directly to me. Their comments about me were for the most part always negative. There was really nothing I could do to meet their expectations of me. They always wanted more than I could deliver. The whole thing started by my adoptive mother Joan's nagging and instigation. The discussion of how Beth was annoying and ate all their food came up on several occasions. I do not know why such a small insignificant thing was such an issue to them. To me, it was a senseless thing to focus on. Perhaps it was brought up so I would feel guilty if I repeated her so-called offense. My alleged father, James, was referred to as a drunk. I remember a certain incident where supposedly he came into their bar and threatened them with a gun. Maybe he never knew the truth either, or he was angry because he knew the truth. I will never know now. It is not like anyone is going to tell me after all these years. When I reflect on the situation, it was a very interesting analogy to have called him a drunk. My adoptive parents owned 2 bars and 2 liquor stores. They had the nerve to judge him while they contributed to many individuals' drinking problems. Who was the hypocrite here? Reflecting on the situation, I wonder if he was a drunk or if they just wanted me to believe that he was. In fact, where my biological family is concerned, I probably will never find out the truth about any of them. The thing is, I feel now he may have come to get me back from them because no one but Dan knew the truth. As I was growing up until I became a teenager, it was hell. Joan was constantly trying to drive me insane, and there was arguing as long as we were all in the house together. It seemed deleted. Like it would never stop. Joan would pull my hair, slap me around, and tell me she hated me. She was an expert at nagging, tenacious, and, at one point, even told me she wanted to kill me. The theory I mentioned before makes it clear her actions were out of jealousy. My suspicions could be valid. I really feel that in her mind, Dan paid too much attention to me. In my observation of the situation, the question remains, why would a woman who wanted a child turned around and treated that child in such a way? There had to be an underlying problem. They did not have a good relationship, there wasn't any obvious romance and very little affection, mostly annoying yelling between them. He was sick with heart problems, and when I was little, I was kind of soothing to him, so I was told. I spent a lot of time in their bedroom, between the 2 of them that may have bothered her as well. We had a bond, I went with him everywhere and I spent little time with her. He definitely treated me differently when she was not around. In fact, when I think back, I remember most of the time when he punished me she was the one who suggested it. There were days when I came home from school my room would be torn apart. I was not sloppy. I could leave one thing out of place, and she would take that as a reason to turn the room upside down literally. My drawers would all be dumped on the bed, little notes would be left in various places in the room. Things like, "What is this? Where did this come from? I told you not to leave your socks like this." Then comes a note telling me to clean up my room. "You left it a mess again." Well, you get the idea. The destruction of my room would happen a few times out of the week. Her behavior was unbearable, I just wanted to run as far as I could away from it. In the morning when I was on my way to school, Joan would open the door on the side of the house and shriek at me as I walked down the street. I will illustrate it for you. The houses were stair-stepped, ours was at the top, so she literally had to yell over the roofs of the houses below us. This was at 7 in the morning when people appreciate a little peace and quiet. The neighbors thought she was crazy and felt bad for me. I was so humiliated and embarrassed. The very few friends I had felt Joan was wicked as well. In fact, I hardly ever had any friends over and ended up being recluse for the most part. The few times I did have an acquaintance over, the person never wanted to come back. I was a target for rejection all throughout school. In high school, I finally learned how to fight back against my feelings. I used my body and sex. It was the substitute I used for the love I was lacking. I dated older men because the boys at school to me were immature and had little to offer me in my state of survival. That of course brought me a title of whore and slut at school. However, at that point in my life, I did not care. The pain and loneliness drove me, so the consequences for my actions were far from my mind. It somehow relieved the hurt, so did alcohol at times. I never became an alcoholic though. I can honestly say that I don't remember Joan ever coming up to just to hug me and tell me how much she loved me. Joan never told me she appreciated having me as a daughter. We never did the things a mother and daughter do together, like shopping, talking about intimate things, or just hang out and enjoy each other's company. In short, when I finally became an adult, I realized none of them loved me. I was only there to meet their selfish needs. The reason I can say this with such confidence is because they added to all of my misery by writing me off. That is the best term for the fact that they shut me out as though I never existed. The whole family will not speak of me or to me. They were always cold and heartless. My brother's ex-wife, Pam, who was like a sister to me, will not even acknowledge me. This is still very agonizing for me because when I was young, she and my brother, Larry, would always protect my dignity. We were always close, she always confided in me and I in her. We shared our most intimate secrets. I grew up with her kids, and I went on several vacations with them. Today, she says associating with me would upset my mother. I feel there is some mental issue there because she says she does not want to even know me. To me that is just odd because of how close we were. She already knows me, I have not changed. I am still that caring person I have always been. The only thing that is different is that I am wiser and older. The things she says makes no sense. She witnessed the treatment I received from Joan and even said she was surprised I turned out okay. Maybe she carries some kind of guilt that she did not do more to protect me. The thing is, my brother would come home in the middle of the night after cheating on her and demand that she get up and fix him something to eat. This was after working all day in the liquor store he created. Larry was never there, Pam did everything. He did not treat her right, and when they went through a divorce, I was there for her. Larry even caused her to have a nervous breakdown. In my opinion, it has something to do with my inheritance. I feel it was given to her and her daughters perhaps as a bribe to keep her away from me. They have left me without family and no emotional support to get through life. I feel that is the cruelest thing a family could possibly do to a child. It is not right. My adoptive parents and my brother were rather wealthy. They owned property all over California, apartment houses, and land. We lived in the hills above Glendale. My brother was a member of a fairly famous band in the 60s called the Raspberry Alarm Clock. Their album went gold and platinum. He did several TV appearances, including a few on a show called Laugh In. The band members had several disagreements with him and basically fired him. The last time I had contact with my parents in any way was in 1990 when their financial advisor called and asked for my children's social security numbers. They supposedly wanted to set up accounts for them. I told him no because I knew what they were up to. The thing is, I had several accounts and insurance policies that they took out on me. I never saw any of the money. They used me as a tax shelter. I went to the bank where I knew I had money because I worked for some of it in the stores they owned. I remembered setting up an account and also remember looking at the bank book. In those days, they kept track of deposits in a little book. There was some birthday money that I received that was deposited into the account along with the money I worked for. We had a large family, and they had quite a few friends that had fallen in love with my personality that would send me cards on my birthday, so over the years, it was a substantial amount of money. When I turned 18, they would not sign it over to me, and in fact, they said it never existed and I was crazy. I have had to come to terms with the facts. It was not hard for them to reject me because they never really wanted me for the right reasons. Assuming I was adopted, I supposedly was not a blood relative after all. I was in fact an insignificant addition to their family. The tribulation of this lifestyle I was trapped in, along with no self-worth, caused me to be reckless with my choices of relationships. I looked for acceptance from anyone who would give me attention. I would do just about anything to feel like I was worth something. My adoptive parents were instrumental in adding to this pattern by accusing me of seducing a relative who attempted to molest me. I was 8 years old at the time. Jack, a distant cousin of Dan's, was waiting in my bathroom naked behind the door with the light off. When I walked into the room, he came at me. I was in shock but turned and ran into my bedroom across the hall. It happened at a family gathering. We had all been outside swimming in the pool. There was a guest bathroom at the other end of the house that he was supposed to use. I know he must have planned the whole thing. There was no reason for him to be on the private side of the house. My parents actually apologized to the relative. It had not occurred to me at the time, but I was learning about the twists and turns of life the hard way, and that life is not fair. When I look back, I realized that I actually passed up true love because I felt I was not good enough. I settled for the bottom of the barrel when I could have had it all. I feel at this point I need to bring to the light how your words and actions mold your children for the rest of their lives. You can cause them to have an easy time growing up, or you can cause them to live the nightmare I have experienced. Please guard your actions and especially your words. The scriptures warned us that they bring either life or death. Speaking of actions, I need to mention here there was one incident with Dan. I was about 13. He liked to chase me around the house and tickle me when I was young, and that was innocent. However, the problem is this one time, he backed me into the door and tried to make out with me. I of course pushed him away. After that, I stayed away from him. The man was probably frustrated sexually and lost his mind for that one moment. It was the only time that happened with him. I have forgiven him because it was not his usual behavior. It really confused me and traumatized me, however. My mother was ugly inside and out. A true bitch, in fact. I compare her to the Wicked Witch on The Wizard of Oz, and so did my friends, so that is how my mind put closure on the incident. At 15, I thought I had found someone who would love me unconditionally. Jim was there for me when times were hard. Jim protected me and made me feel safe. When I had been hit by a car on my bicycle, he spent more time in the hospital with me than anyone else did. He would drop everything and ride his bicycle for miles just to be with me. That was of course before he had a car. He was the first male who told me I was beautiful inside and out. Jim and I fell in love, and for about 9 months, we abstained from sex. The first thing he showed me when we met was Corinthians 13 in the Bible, and that was my first exposure to what spiritual love really is. He gave me a promise ring and told me he wanted us to stay together forever. Unfortunately at the time, I did not realize that we were both damaged, and so things between us were cursed from the beginning. We dated for over a year, and then suddenly, he began to pull away. I felt the relationship was unstable, so I went looking for something better. I started dating other boys, but it always lacked what we had shared. I tried to go back to him on several occasions, but it always failed. I still do not understand why it happened because every time we were together, Jim was so romantic and mature for his age. Jim would always save something from our dates and put it in a shoebox. He held onto that box for years. Spiritually, we stayed connected, and the love I felt for him never died. Jim was my first true love. It was quite ironic because, later in life, we met again and things were the same as far as our feelings were concerned. However, he was judgmental and very religious. That certainly put a limitation on us reuniting as a couple. We had the same connection, but his self-righteousness was always in the way. I wanted to be with him, but unless I would spend countless hours in a church of his choice, he wanted nothing to do with me. He actually told me I was not holy enough to be with him. The ironic thing was he was a total hypocrite because I found teen porn on his computer, so he had no right to call me out. He should have worried about his own faults. The whole ordeal just proved to me people do not always change for the better. He tore my heart apart in the deepest way. He was no longer that boy I knew in high school. I went to see him one last time when his mother died, because when we were together, his mother filled the void Joan and Beth left in my life. Jim was with this woman at his aunt's house. He totally ignored me and treated me like a distant stranger. I was so hurt, I let him have it, and that was the end for good, total closure. It still hurts to this day, however. I know I can only take the positive out of the situation and throw away the rest. It was another lesson learned the hard way. So after several years of relationships I could not find satisfaction with, I became weary. Just when I thought I would give up, a man I worked with offered to change my life. So I thought. I was fooled into a commitment with not an ounce of love included. I dated every kind of male species that you could possibly find, wealthy and intelligent to meager and ignorant. I was not satisfied with who I was, so I found no satisfaction in any relationship. I, like others who have gone through a bad childhood, thought pregnancy was the answer. So I decided to get pregnant. That was the biggest mistake of my life. I thought would find love in a child because that child would depend on me and love me unconditionally. That is just a delusion. That kind of thinking is also selfish. You have to be whole inside and be able to give to a child or a mate. Relationships are not about taking, they are about giving. You can't accomplish a giving relationship until you love yourself and are comfortable with the person you are. That is why a relationship built on taking still leaves you feeling empty. Walking through life as a whole person comes from the spirit within and a true relationship with whatever you want to call the one who holds the universe in check. The scriptures tell us to give, and it will be given unto us 100-fold. It is sowing and reaping. The society we live in thinks it is the other way around, but it does not work that way. Each of us must plant a seed in order to harvest. We can't go and steal someone else's harvest and then plant a crop with the seeds we have stolen from someone else's blessing. If you remember, I told you there is some truth in the Bible. If you search within, you will find wisdom that goes much deeper than the words, "Take my words and try it." It turned out that after becoming pregnant, thinking I found the right person, the truth came out. My ex-husband, Victor, was addicted to pornography. I suspected he was bisexual at the time because he worked at a gay bar at one point in his life. Victor also had a bisexual friend he idolized. However, I was naive. I took the risk and got involved with him anyway. I had just gotten out of a painful relationship and ended back in the house with Joan, so it was a way out. Later in life, I have come to realize Victor is gay, and that is why he thought very little about women. He in fact was abusive mentally, physically, and emotionally in the first month I was with him. Those worthless feelings trapped me once again. I not only had to deal with Victor, I had to deal with his parents as well. I had to deal with their condemnation and judgment throughout my 16-year marriage. They always felt that I was not good enough for their son. That was their opinion to this day. Fortunately for me, they are dead. However, the damage they did with my girls is still there. The whole time I was raising them, nothing I did was correct in their eyes. They had an opinion for everything when it came to my parenting. They made it their goal in life to interfere whenever they could. Victor, of course, could do no wrong, even though he did absolutely nothing to contribute to making them who they are today. It was all me, 100% due to my efforts. If they were aware of the fact that Victor had no respect for me, they would have gloated. I could not expect them to correct him, that is for sure. They always spoke in Hungarian around me, so I did not know what they were talking about. His father was an alcoholic and disrespectful to his wife. The cycle sure was continuing. On one occasion, we went to dinner with my ex's family for his father's birthday, and he got drunk. He embarrassed all of us, yelling and cursing in front of the whole restaurant, and they almost threw us out. That should have been a red flag for me, but I was so accustomed to the same type of behavior from my adoptive family. The cycle of all abuse keeps repeating throughout the generations until someone steps up and says enough. I thought Victor was sincere in his love for me, until he started to humiliate me in front of our friends, make belittling comments which would encourage me to snap back. It happened every time we would go to visit. They finally got sick of our behavior, which ultimately pushed them all away. Victor also was selfish and would slap me occasionally when I said something that irritated him. In spite of it all, I decided I would accomplish one thing. I would stick to my commitment regardless of the torture or mayhem. I felt I got what I deserved because my parents conditioned me to think that way. They conditioned me to feel I had no worth, and that kept me bound to my bad relationship. I am not sharing all of this because I want you to feel sorry for me. I am telling you this because I need to set the stage. I strongly believe that rejection and low self-esteem are the demons, if you will, that drive people to begin to search for an external way to fix the problems in their lives. The force called rejection is the biggest curse to mankind. Our society teaches it well. You are not accepted if you do not fit the mold. Some of the prerequisites our society demands are being attractive, thin, intellectual, or of wealthy social standing. It is not to say that those attributes are dreadful, I just feel that they do not measure the value of a person. There is too much of a focus on the superficial appearance and not enough on the character. The self-important humans who seem to govern our planet judge and put you in a category. This all happens before you even reach puberty. Look at bullying, for instance, it has gotten out of control, and the suicide rates among teens are soaring. This is unacceptable to me, and I feel something should be done to stop it. Let us face it, humans are brutal, worse than animals. I have to mention you will find the people in most churches are worse than the heathens of society. I had to throw that in because we still have Pharisees. I have found more judgmental people in the churches than I have found out in the mainstream public. I am assuming they feel justified in their opinions because they are in the church. That gives them the right to point fingers at others because after all that is the righteous thing to do. The way out of the adversity that people dish out could take on many identities. For some, it is alcohol, drugs, sex, gluttony, or an eating disorder like bulimia, or it could even be a cult. Let us face reality, people turn to these things for several reasons, to fit in, cope with pain, and be accepted by their peers. When people join a cult, it is because they are looking for love and approval. They become blinded to truth. It is a love at all cost, a no matter what mentality. The cult leaders and members, of course, will make you believe that they can fill the emptiness. They will wear a mask of love, however, it is only to fulfill their own need. The leaders in a cult are injured people too, insecure with themselves. The leader will often be the one who has suffered the greatest amount of abuse, and controlling others gives them a false sense of security from their own demons. I wonder why a psychological evaluation has not been considered for former cult members and leaders. Perhaps a study should be done on the groups such as Jim Jones to prevent the situation from occurring again. When people experience chaos in their lives, order and structure has a calming effect. It is easy to settle into. Give a child boundaries, and he will respond because he or she feels it is out of love. Intentions with setting boundaries are in most cases out of love, but in some cases, it becomes warped, just another way to control. It is not always out of a pure motive. In my case, I was kept in the dark, never told the truth, and things were always hidden in the shadows. I think now is a good time to briefly look at how the governments of the world control and condition people to believe everything they project through media. They want us to believe their rules and laws keep away utter chaos. However, the other side of that issue, they can and are stealing away our freedom. They are doing it without protest from us. There are no differences between a government and a cult. The psychology is the same principles exist. The question would be, is that why the powers that be ignore the cults? At least until they feel threatened, like when they decided to make an example of the folks in Waco. Why did they feel it necessary to kill innocent women and children? Was it simply to make a point? They could have arrested Koresh several times and have kept the others out of it. They could have spared their lives, helped them, and perhaps even have stopped other groups like his from operating through exposure and education. They want us to believe we are unruly and rebellious and need them to keep peace when they themselves promote lawlessness and encourage it. Just look at war. What is the point? Murder innocent people to prove you are more powerful? Of course, it is always for monetary gain. The question is who benefits the most. We need to embrace everyone's differences, not mold them to ours. War should only be in defense and only entered into when another country attacks on our soil. Think about it, has killing ever changed the way another culture thinks? There simply needs to be a better way. I know for a fact there are several organized cults out there enslaving people with the same mind control because I have done a lot of research. I personally was involved with two, one in California, and one in Alaska. That led me on a study of all religions, and I found the same similarities in all of them. They operate without scrutiny and are accepted by the communities they are in. The fruit they produce is rotten because they destroy lives. The members have no identity but the one they mold them to. They are followers of a man, not their own individuality. The one thing that is always involved is financial gain. They often give up everything including family if it interferes with the belief system, and how about the religions who control women and even stone them when they are the victim, not the perpetrator? Injured and hurting, we'll naturally look for an escape from the pain, right? If it is not some of the other things mentioned before, then it is for some of us defined as a higher power. My higher power is what the majority of religions call Jesus or God because that is the only name we know at this point. We are told that is what we are to call them. I, however, do not quite follow the spirituality the way everyone else does. I tend to feel comfortable with those names, but I strongly feel the way to spirituality is within all of us, the law of attraction or creating your own destiny. I do not follow the book with the same name, however, I follow my own spirituality. I just feel there is truth in what the book says. Who we are is what we attract into our lives. It is all about the energy we project into the universe. We either allow our circumstances dictate who we are or we change it, and that is within us to do just that. I still believe there is a supreme energy out there called God. At least what most perceive as the creator. That could be a myth as well. I feel it is okay to question even this because we simply do not know. Let's face the truth, what we see with our eyes is created by other people and what they think reality is. We will get to why I feel a heavenly realm and creator exists as we go on. There is some higher deleted energy above we will answer to. I know that from deep in my own soul. The natural things man has not conjured up in the world are just too complex for it not to be designed by a creative source. I had gotten involved with a cult when I was truly seeking for what Christianity calls the Lord. I thought, as many church members have been conditioned to believe, I could find fellowship with God by spending time with others who believed the same way. I thirsted for fellowship with people who knew the answer was in a heavenly Father and relationship with Him. Unfortunately, there are several groups that take on the appearance of righteousness. I call it a man-made righteousness or humanist spirit. We well know everyone looks for something or someone to bail them out when times are hard. It unfortunately is usually a superficial thing or tangible thing people turn to. It does not fix the pain or the problem, it just temporarily numbs it. We need to fix ourselves through our will. Nothing or no one can do it for us. The answer is within. It is so simple. It took a journey through the shadows of a cult to teach me that I can find strength to overcome by using my will. I refer to shadows because when you're in a cult you can't see anything but what is put before you. The truth is hidden behind shadows and lies. Compare it, if you will, to the media. If you are honest with yourself, how much of what you see do you investigate to see if it is true? I am not referring to the things that are clearly fiction. I am referring more to the news, commentaries, studies, political propaganda, and things institutions use every day to educate us. If a doctor tells you, I want you to take this pill because it will help you, Is it not a fact that most people take that as truth and do it without even thinking twice? The governments of the world condition us to believe without question. I was fooled into believing the cult had the truth because I was conditioned as a child through the things I experienced to trust what I see with my eyes. It is a matter of the heart, not the mind. You have to want the way to the truth in order to find it. Each of us must be leaders of our own journey, not followers. Even though as a child I tried to search for that inner strength and peace, I had very little understanding of spiritual things. There was no one to teach me. That is why it is so important that parents know the truth and teach their children that their strength to overcome adversity is inside through the choices they make and their strength of character. I still believe truth is found in the greatest mystery, love. Love is real and tangible. It is not just emotion. It is a commitment that Jesus proved all the way to the cross and through his death. At least this is the illustration that was left for us to reflect upon. To love and be loved is a choice. You must be willing to fall in love with a person in order to achieve the emotion. The emotional part is secondary. I believe we are accountable for the things we have taught our children. You might think some government agencies are scary, and some reading this may have even dealt with them. There is one greater to answer to. Our children belong to the Creator, not the government. I believe strongly they do not even belong to us. I feel we are given them as a gift to learn about ourselves and teach us. We are simply stewards of their souls, because if you stand back and look at your children, you will see they are separate from you in many ways. Their DNA is you, but the inner soul is an energy that really has not come from you. They have their own path to walk, and we cannot choose that for them. The stage is set, now I can share my story with you. I want to take you step by step through the things I have experienced. Through the process, I hope you and those you love will stay safe and realize there is an energy within that is your spirit and that will guide you to what deleted. Fellowship with God by spending time you desire and need. It is a positive energy source that gives us strength, and all we need to do is learn to tap into it. We need to learn to let it guide our heart. It will show us the way, the truth, and life we long for.
Okay, I'm going to end this now, and I will put up part 2 shortly. Let me know what your thoughts are on what I've posted so far. Leave it in comments, and hopefully you'll be nice. And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the story of how I got